All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome to a little impromptu pregame here for Iowa State basketball, which tips off in about 30 minutes. We'll do a little bit of Fiesta Bowl here as it was a weird morning with that. And I want to talk about the news of the day with Tom Herman being fired at Texas. And it's now being reported that Alabama offensive coordinator Steve Sarkisian will be replacing Herman at Texas. So we'll talk about all that and more coming up. I want to thank our sponsors every game day, the Iowa Clinic and the Iowa Clinic Men's Center for presenting all of our coverage here on the Cyclone Fanatic social media networks and YouTube. I want to remind you guys, halftime of the basketball game, right back here, wherever you're watching. If you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, wherever, Todd Blythe, Brett Meyer, and I, Matt Van Winkle will be producing the program as well, are going to be here. And we're just going to watch the second half together, probably have a few cocktails, and we're going to lead you right up into the Fiesta Bowl. How's that sound? Join us. It'll be a lot of fun, interactive. You guys know how this thing works by now. We can put your comments across the screen, all that good stuff. And we can, yeah, and we're going to go to the bowl game too. Niall's in here. Jared will be live at the bowl game. So we'll bring Jared Stansbury on as well. I forgot about that. It's just been such a crazy. Does anybody else just like not even know what day of the week it is? Like it's just such a weird day. I want to start off Iowa State football real quick. It was a weird morning as DraftKings out of nowhere pulled the point spread off of its board. It comes back. I want to pull it up right now to see where the number is live. It was very odd to pull it off the day of the game like that, and it got a lot of people thinking that something might be up. And my guess is that there probably something is up for them to pull it like that. Now the number's back down to 5.5 with Iowa State, which is higher than it was. It was at 4 earlier in the week. But I'm wondering if there's just COVID stuff going on with Oregon. A lot of people were freaking out, wondering if the game would get canceled. That's not going to happen. I'm talking to people there, like that football game's going to happen today. But I'm just wondering if there wasn't a little bit of like, or it could have been too, because the line stayed up on all the other books. So I'm wondering if DraftKings didn't get like a really big bet that made them pull it for a couple of minutes to reassess what their number was. That's my analysis on it. But I'm looking at it right now. Iowa State's a 5.5-point favorite. That line has been pretty steady since the lines came out a couple of Sundays ago. So we'll do more football. Byron Blythe will join me. That'll be around 1 o'clock. Whatever halftime of the basketball game is, we're going to come on here and I'll do my halftime show for basketball, and we'll bring those guys on, and we're just going to have a little fun and play some or watch some football and basketball together. And you guys can join us leading up until kickoff of the Fiesta Bowl. Basketball today, number 2 Baylor. Iowa State is a 15.5-point underdog to the Bears. I'll check that line right now to make sure it hasn't moved. Yeah, 15 now. So Iowa State's getting a little bit of money, believe it or not. Good news today for Iowa State. Trey Jackson will be back. That's a big deal if you guys have missed that. It feels like basketball, they just haven't played for so long. And with the hype of the football game, it's weird to have a conference basketball game going on today as well. But it'll be good to get Trey Jackson back. I'm hearing that he'll play but not start, but I know what Steve Prohm thinks of him. My guess is just with his perimeter defense, we're going to see a lot of Trey Jackson today. Baylor is loaded. Iowa State couldn't have a worse start as far as like this second half of the conference season, as far as their schedule. It could get really ugly before things get better. Prepare yourselves accordingly. The news of the day, and this is why I really wanted to come on the stream, is to talk about everything going on in Austin, Texas today, where Tom Herman was fired out of nowhere. We all kind of were led to believe that the powers that be there in Austin, if they couldn't get Urban Meyer, would have that they would likely keep Tom employed. Texas looked good in the Alamo Bowl the other night. In fact, there were a lot of people on my Cyclone Twitter feed here where you're looking ahead to next year and you're like, okay, it's Oklahoma and it's Iowa State in the Big 12, but man, like Texas's defense really seems to be making some, progress under Chris Ash as that season came to an end. You're starting to look at Texas. It's a little bit like, that backup quarterback looked pretty good. They could be that solid 3 seed going into next year in the Big 12. Steve Sarkisian is really interesting to me. This a little bit feels like another version of Tom Herman to me. Very similar backgrounds. I'll say this, like to win there, you have to be almost a larger than life personality. This is why I've said like Matt Campbell would never fit in Austin. Matt doesn't even like dealing with boosters at Iowa State. It's just not his personality. Matt's all about football. The boosters are out of control in Austin, and I'll say that this is why I always said like Herman's not a bad fit there. No, you got to win football games. There's no doubt about that, and he obviously wasn't winning enough. But Tom could sit there and go and have a whiskey with a oil man and like have the guy eating out of his palm by the end of the night. Sarkisian is like that. He has that type of a personality. It's been good for him to be tutored by Nick Saban over the last few years. He's obviously having success there. But this to me feels like a similar type of guy, which is interesting. I thought Texas would be more of the – do you remember back when everybody would talk about John Gruden taking a college job? That was kind of what I was thinking, more of like an NFL elk for Texas if they weren't going to get Meyer. I'm just really surprised. Sarkisian is a guy who you knew would get another opportunity. He's been at Washington. He's been at USC, totally flamed out at USC. And that was a sad deal. You hope that his life is more put together for, compared to that point. But to me, like just looking at this selfishly from an Iowa State standpoint, this weakens Texas for next year. I think that they probably would have been farther ahead had they kept Tom. Now, that doesn't mean that long-term Sarkisian isn't a better option. He very well might be. But just a very curious move. I feel like Chris Del Conte, the athletics director at Texas, is really swinging for the fences here. This is an aggressive hire in Steve Sarkisian, specifically at Texas. So we'll see. I'll also see what happens with Herman now. There's not going to be a lot of jobs out there. It makes sense now, the reports that we saw a couple weeks ago about Herman flirting around with that South Carolina job. I know that Tom had some interest in that job the first time around, but obviously they moved in another direction. Just thinking out loud here, could Nick Saban hire Tom Herman to be the offensive coordinator at Alabama next year? It would be a very Saban type of hire. But I don't know. That's just what I'm thinking. But this is really interesting to me. Again, like it seems lateral, but this is probably a very high reward type deal. I'm shocked. I was shocked when I got that news today that Herman had been fired. I thought that it was pretty much written in stone that if they didn't get Urban Meyer, that they would keep him. So what a crazy day. It's 11:40 and this has been an insane day already. I hope it's a really good one. I hope basketball can just play with them, not expecting anything more than that. Said this a million times, but my goal for this team at this point is to, in mid-February, where I can look at the roster and I can say, okay, like I can see some building blocks here, and next year could be pretty fun. That's what I want out of this basketball program. But I think that it starts pretty ugly, the way that the schedule plays out. And then, man, if Iowa State wins the Fiesta Bowl, we all deserve a cold beer tonight, man, because that would be pretty awesome. But again, okay, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to grab some food before basketball starts. Rob Gray in Hilton Coliseum for us covering today's game. Thanks to our friends at the Iowa Clinic and the Iowa Clinic Men's Center. Join us at halftime of basketball. We'll do our basketball halftime show like I always do, and then I'll bring on Brett Meyer and Todd Blythe and us three, and Maddie Van Winkle is going to join us, and we're just going to kick it leading up to the football game, and then we'll have some fun. All right, guys. Appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us as always. Please tell your friends about our content as we continue to grow here at Cyclone Fanatic, and have a great Saturday.